The bank manager's face went pale, his hands trembling as he snatched up the phone. "Lock the front doors. Call the police immediately. Do not let her leave," he barked. He stared at me like I'd just handed him a live grenade, the same worn leather passbook my father had ripped from my hands the day before at my grandmother's funeral, tossing it into the trash with a look of pure disgust. "It's worthless junk," he had said. He was dead wrong. Some secrets refuse to stay buried, and some return with teeth. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 31, a legal assistant in downtown Boston, living a steady but unremarkable life. Modest paycheck, aging car, a job that demands attention to detail. Noticing patterns, asking the hard questions, following threads to the end, that's what I do best. My family never appreciated it. The funeral was Tuesday. My grandmother, Patricia Carter, passed at 89, leaving behind her quiet farmhouse near Concord, a place that seemed empty but held more than anyone suspected. The service was cold and efficient. My father ran it like a corporate schedule, 30 minutes of ceremony, 45 for the reception. Samantha arrived late, dressed in a suit that cost more than my apartment, offering traffic as her excuse. She barely feigned sadness while my father managed the proceedings with calculated detachment. I drifted to thoughts of Patricia, her love for numbers, her razor-sharp mind, her chess lessons on that porch with lemonade sweating in the heat. The truth is patient. It can wait longer than any lies she had told me 2 weeks before her death, pressing my hand. Inside the chessbook lay the passbook, her final secret. I retrieved it from the hollowed pages and returned to the living room, only to see my father snatch it and toss it in the trash. "Garbage," he said. Samantha laughed softly, exchanging a glance with him that spoke of hidden truths. That night, sleep eluded me. The next morning, I drove to the bank in Lowell, ready to confront a secret my family thought was buried, unaware that uncovering it would shatter everything I thought I knew about them. The drive back from the funeral had left me wired and exhausted at the same time. By dawn the next morning, I was already on the road again, heading straight back to the farmhouse in Concord, as the sky turned pale pink over the fields. No one else was around. The house sat silent, still holding its breath from yesterday. I used the spare key under the third porch step, the one Grandma always kept there, and went directly to the kitchen. The trash can hadn't been emptied. I pulled out the bag, set it on the floor, and started digging through coffee grounds and crumpled napkins from the reception. There I was, a grown woman with a law degree, elbow deep in garbage at 5:30 in the morning. Grandma would have smiled at the stubbornness. Near the bottom, I found it, the passbook, edges worn, leather cover cracked but intact. I wiped it clean with my sleeve and opened it carefully. Tucked into the spine was a folded square of paper in her precise handwriting. I unfolded it and read, "Account number 774-1289-004. They don't know about this one. Trust no one in the family. Only you, Emily." My pulse hammered in my ears. The note was dated 3 months earlier. She had planned this. She had hidden it, knowing exactly who might look. Under the passbook lay a small faded photograph I hadn't noticed at first. Grandma and my father, Joshua, years ago, probably in the early 90s. He was smiling, wide arm around her shoulder. She looked tired even then, eyes distant. The picture triggered a memory I'd pushed down for years. After Grandpa died, my father moved in fast. He took over her finances, her phone, her schedule. For her own good, he always said. Visitors dwindled, calls were screened. Doctors came more often, and suddenly she was forgetful, confused. I remembered one Christmas when I tried to visit alone, he blocked the door, said she was resting. She wasn't. She was just being kept quiet. The photo felt heavier in my hand now. That smile wasn't warmth. It was calculation. My hands shook as I read the note again. Trust no one meant my own father. The man who raised me, who drove me to school, who pretended to care at holidays. The betrayal hit like cold water. I photographed everything, the note, the passbook pages, the old picture, then uploaded the images to my secure cloud drive. Years at the law firm had drilled one rule into me: paper disappears, digital copies don't. I left the farmhouse without touching anything else and drove the 2 hours back to Boston. Traffic was light. My mind was anything but. I kept replaying the funeral. Samantha showing up late, barely glancing at the casket, eyes glued to her phone the whole reception. My father walking the rooms like he was appraising real estate, already talking buyers and closing dates. They hadn't mourned. They'd inventoried. By the time I pulled into my apartment parking spot in Boston, the calls started coming. First my father, then Samantha. I let them go to voicemail. Whatever they wanted to say, I already knew it was a probe. And I wasn't ready to answer, not yet. I sat in my car for a long minute, staring at the dashboard, the weight of the passbook in my bag, feeling heavier than $2 million could ever explain. Grandma had trusted me with the truth because she knew I wouldn't stop until it came out. And I wouldn't. Not now. Not after seeing that look they shared yesterday. I finally got out, locked the car, and headed inside. The phone buzzed again. This time I answered. The phone rang at 9:15 sharp the next morning. I was still in my apartment kitchen, coffee gone cold, passbook lying open on the table like a loaded gun. Caller ID showed my father. I let it ring twice, steadying myself, then answered. His voice came through, polished and concerned, the tone he used when he needed to steer a conversation. Emily, just checking on you after yesterday. Such a tough day for the whole family. I stayed quiet. He didn't wait long. You didn't take anything from the farmhouse, did you? Everything's part of the estate now. We have to catalog it properly before listing the property. I kept my voice even. Just one of Grandma's old chess books to remember her by. A pause stretched long enough I could picture him weighing his next words. Then he eased up. That's fine. But please don't go digging through her things anymore, Emily. Some stuff is better left alone. Patricia wasn't herself toward the end. Her mind was slipping. I didn't reply. Inside, I was seething. 3 weeks earlier, she had gripped my hand and given me clear, deliberate instructions. That wasn't a woman losing her grip. That was someone setting a trap. I ended the call and immediately jotted down the time, every phrase, the exact length of that pause. Details build cases. 9 hours later, the second call came. Samantha this time. She hadn't contacted me voluntarily in over 6 months, but suddenly she felt chatty. Hey, Em, she said, voice dripping fake warmth. Dad said you've been asking about Grandma's stuff. Just wanted to make sure you're doing okay. I'm fine, I answered. Just dealing with it. She made a sympathetic hum. You know, Grandma didn't really have much, right? The farmhouse, a few pieces of furniture. Dad and I already discussed it. He's handling the sale. I'll manage the paperwork. You don't have to worry about any of this. There it was, the division. He gets the cash. She gets control. I get sidelined. They figured I'd swallow it without question. Her final line, just let it go, Em. You know how Dad gets. It's not worth the headache. I logged every word, every timing. 9 hours apart, almost like clockwork. Almost like they were comparing notes, making sure their stories matched. They were nervous. I sat still for a long minute after hanging up, then opened my calendar and requested a personal day from work. My boss approved it without asking why. I never take time off. The following morning, I drove the 2 hours to Lowell. First Regional Savings had a modest branch on the main street, one traffic light, a diner that probably hadn't changed its menu since the 70s. I walked in at 9:15, carrying the passbook, my ID, Grandma's death certificate, and proof of kinship. The young teller smiled politely, accepted the passbook, typed the account number into her system, and the smile vanished. She excused herself, stepped to the back, and made a hushed call. 20 minutes dragged by. I sat in the lobby watching the clock, starting to second-guess myself. Maybe my father was right. Maybe this was a dead end. Then a man in a tailored suit appeared, tall, graying temples, professionally composed. He introduced himself as Daniel Reed, branch manager. He asked me to follow him to his private office. His hands trembled slightly when he took the passbook from me. He studied it like it might detonate, then sat down hard in his chair and exhaled slowly. Miss Carter, he said carefully, This account is flagged in our system. My stomach nodded. Flagged never means anything good. He leaned forward. Not because of anything you've done, because of its history. As Daniel Reed walked in, his face told me this was no ordinary account, and the lies were about to unravel. I still wonder sometimes how many families hide secrets like this behind closed doors, secrets that look normal until they don't. The door to Daniel Reed's private office clicked shut behind us, sealing out the quiet hum of the branch lobby. He gestured to the chair across from his desk, then sat down heavily, placing the passbook between us, like it carried weight far beyond its leather cover. His fingers hovered over the keyboard for a moment before he spoke. Miss Carter, this account was opened in 2010. The exterior looks decades old, deliberately aged to blend with something forgotten, but the internal records are modern. Your grandmother chose that vintage shell to conceal what she was protecting. He rotated the monitor so I could see the balance clearly, $2,147,832. The figure hit me like a physical blow. $2 million. Grandma, who clipped coupons and repaired her own appliances, who never complained about money, had quietly amassed and hidden $2 million. Daniel's voice stayed steady, but his eyes betrayed concern. In 2015, there was an access attempt. A power of attorney document was submitted, purportedly signed by Patricia Carter, authorizing a full transfer. Our verification system caught inconsistencies in the signature pressure, too uniform loops too precise. It was flagged as possible forgery. The request was denied and the incident logged in our security archive. I forced the question out. Who made the attempt? Daniel glanced at his screen. Joshua Carter, your father. The words landed like stones in my chest. My father had tried to empty her secret account 9 years ago. He had failed, but the intent was there, cold, calculated, undeniable. Daniel pulled up additional files, transaction logs scrolling across the display. The story starts earlier. In 1995, your grandmother received a large inheritance from her parents. She invested conservatively, compounded interest over the years. By 2009, after your grandfather passed, her total holdings exceeded $1,500,000 across various accounts. Beginning in 2010, withdrawals commenced gradual. At first, then accelerating. All were authorized through power of attorney documents bearing her signature. But side-by-side comparisons show the same anomalies, strokes too, even no natural variation. Over 5 years, roughly $1,500,000 was removed and redirected. The bank accepted the documents as valid at the time. They appeared legal on paper. He paused, letting the timeline sink in. In 2019, your grandmother submitted a formal fraud complaint to our department. She alleged her son was systematically stealing from her. She stated that prior declarations of mental incompetence secured through court proceedings had silenced her. No one believed an elderly woman labeled confused over her devoted son. We required original evidence to act. She couldn't provide it while she lived. My stomach dropped so hard I felt it in my throat. My father, the man who raised me, who taught me to ride a bike, who smiled at family photos, had been stealing from his own mother for years. He had manipulated doctors, influenced courts, isolated her from the world, and drained her savings while she sat powerless watching him do it. But she hadn't surrendered. She had created this hidden account as her last defense, transferred what remained, disguised it with the antique passbook, and built her case in silence. She had documented discrepancies, saved records, waited for the right moment, and she had chosen me to finish what she started. Daniel leaned forward slightly. This balance is now potential evidence of felony financial crimes, elder abuse, forgery, fraud. I am required to contact our fraud division and recommend law enforcement involvement. I nodded, numb, the room suddenly too small. The drive back to Boston passed in a haze of highway lines and silence. I kept the radio off, windows closed, replaying every number, every date, every betrayal until they blurred together. When I finally pulled into my apartment complex, my hands ached from gripping the wheel. I parked, grabbed my bag, and walked up the stairs. On my doorstep sat a thick manila folder delivered that afternoon by courier. The return address read, Jacob Ellis, attorney at law, Grandma's lawyer. I knew what waited inside, and I knew opening it would make everything irreversible. The folder waited on my doorstep like a quiet accusation, no note attached, just my name in Grandma's careful handwriting. I carried it inside, locked the door twice, and sat at the kitchen table in the dim light from the hallway. The return address read, Jacob Ellis, attorney at law. Her chess partner of 40 years, the one she trusted when no one else was listening. I broke the seal and spread the documents across the table. The first pages were forensic comparisons, Grandma's authentic signatures from decades-old bank forms lined up beside the power of attorney papers my father had submitted. The forged ones showed loops too symmetrical, pressure too uniform, no natural variation in stroke. Someone had practiced her hand until it looked right on paper, but not right enough to fool a trained eye or a bank's security software. Next came pages of transaction logs in her own handwriting, dates, amounts, account numbers, every unauthorized withdrawal tracked with the precision of an accountant who refused to let theft go unnoticed. She had recorded it all over 4 years, a private ledger of betrayal. At the bottom lay her sworn statement, notarized in 2022 by Jacob himself. I read it slowly, her voice rising from the page. She detailed how Joshua assumed control after Grandpa's death in 2009, how he persuaded doctors she showed dementia signs despite clean cognitive tests, how he cut her off from the world, screened visitors, rerouted mail, monitored calls, restricted her access to anything that might expose him. She wrote about the thefts, the excuses he fed the family, the way he drained her accounts while she sat helpless in her own home. One sentence cut deepest. He told me repeatedly that no one would believe a confused old woman over her caring son. I am of sound mind. I know exactly what is being done to me, and I leave this record for the day the truth can speak. Jacob had witnessed every page. When I finished the statement, I opened the sealed letter tucked inside. Dated 1 month before she died, it began, My dearest Emily, if you're reading this, you followed the trail I left. I chose you because you see what others miss. You ask questions that make people uncomfortable. You visit because you love me, not because you expect reward. You never settled for easy lies. That's why I trust you to finish what I started. She apologized for the pain of turning against family, but said she knew I was strong enough to carry it. Live well. Use what remains for something lasting. Be happy. Tears came then, not grief, but a fierce pride mixed with sorrow for the solitude she endured. It wasn't just money, it was dignity, stolen piece by piece. I wiped my face and kept going through the folder. One section detailed Samantha's role she had formed. Carter Holdings, LLC, registered under her middle name, and funneled $600,000 through it over 5 years. Laundered into investments, real estate, luxury spending. I opened my phone and scrolled her social media. There it was, the new luxury SUV gleaming in her driveway. Exotic vacations, designer bags, all posted with captions about hard work paying off. None of it earned, all of it taken from Grandma. The pattern stretched further. In 2002, Joshua's own grandmother, Grandma's mother, passed with savings around $200,000. When the estate closed, almost nothing remained. Whispers of foul play circulated among relatives, but proof never surfaced. Grandma had known. She had seen the pattern form early and prepared accordingly. That's why she documented everything so meticulously, why she hid the account, why she left the evidence with someone outside his reach. She had spent her final years ensuring the cycle ended with her. I closed the folder and sat in silence as the room darkened. The evidence was airtight. Now I had to face them at dinner, pretending I knew nothing. Looking back, I realized trust can break in the quietest moments, those little signs you ignore until they scream. The call from Detective Megan Walsh came 2 days after I closed the folder from Jacob Ellis. An unknown number flashed on my screen, but her voice was steady and direct when I answered. Emily Carter, Financial Crimes Division. The bank forwarded suspicious activity on Patricia Carter's account. We need to talk. We met the next afternoon at a quiet coffee shop 3 blocks from my office. Megan was mid-40s, short, dark hair, eyes that missed nothing, the kind of detective who had investigated too many family betrayals to be shocked anymore. She confirmed the referral: elder financial abuse, forgery, possible money laundering. She asked for full cooperation, but emphasized secrecy. No confrontations, no hints to my father or sister. These cases depend on the element of surprise, she said. We build the case quietly, then move fast. I handed her digital copies of everything: the signature comparisons, Grandma's handwritten transaction logs, the sworn statement, the letter. Megan scanned them on her tablet, nodding slowly. This is strong. Your grandmother was thorough. We'll verify with bank archives, pull additional records, and apply for warrants. Expect 2 weeks minimum to line up approvals. I agreed to stay silent and keep detailed notes on every interaction. The toughest test arrived that Sunday family dinner at my father's house in the Boston suburbs. I arrived on time, forced warmth into my smile, hugged them both, as if the folder and the detective meeting had never happened. The dining room smelled of roast chicken and rosemary. The table was set with the usual china. My father poured wine generously and steered the conversation to the farmhouse. Buyer lined up already. Quick closing, solid cash offer. Will be done in 30 days. Samantha leaned forward, animated. I'm looking at real estate funds with the proceeds. Diversification. Could double the return in 3 years. I nodded, asked safe questions about closing costs, kept my expression neutral, while my heart hammered against my ribs. After dessert, Samantha caught me in the hallway near the powder room. Her voice dropped low, urgent. I know you've been digging into Grandma's stuff. Dad's concerned. But we can fix this. I'll cut you in on the farmhouse sale, 50,000 straight cash if you drop whatever you're chasing and let it go. The offer hung between us like poison. 50,000 from money stolen from our grandmother dangled like a reward for silence. I felt rage rise sharp and hot, but I kept my face calm. I don't want your money, Samantha. Her eyes narrowed, lips thinning. Think about it. You could use it. She walked away without another word. Back at the table, my father reached across casually. Let me see your phone a second, need to check a contact. His hand extended, casual but insistent. I pulled it back smoothly, said the battery was dying, and shifted the topic to weather. He withdrew, but the air thickened with unspoken suspicion. For the next 2 weeks, I lived in a careful performance. Every call from them, I answered, briefly logged tone, phrasing, timing. I cross-referenced new details with what Megan shared through secure channels. I waited, followed protocol, built my own timeline of their probing questions. The warrants cleared on a Thursday morning. Megan's voice on the line was calm but final. Arrests tomorrow, simultaneous. No advance warning. Their carefully constructed world was about to collapse. If you've ever felt that sting of family betrayal, you know exactly what I mean. The moment you realize the people closest to you are the ones hiding the most. 2 weeks of lies later, the warrants were ready, and their world was about to collapse. The arrests unfolded at 7 in the morning, precise and unforgiving. Detective Megan Walsh's team moved on simultaneous warrants, cutting off any chance for coordination or evidence destruction. I stayed away, but the details came through her later that day. At my father's house in the Boston suburbs, officers knocked once. He opened the door in his bathrobe, coffee mug, steaming hair still damp from the shower. The sight of badges and vests froze him mid-sentence. Neighbors emerged on porches and driveways as the lead officer read the charges: fraud, forgery, elder financial abuse, theft from a vulnerable adult. Joshua tried one final deflection, voice steady but cracking at the edges. This is a mistake. My mother was not competent. I was her caretaker. The officer didn't blink. We have 4 years of meticulous records, a notarized sworn statement from Patricia Carter herself. bank logs of your 2015 access attempt on a concealed account, and a clear trail of where the funds went. This isn't a mistake. These are the consequences. He was handcuffed in full view of the street bathrobe slipping as they escorted him to the cruiser. No shouting, no resistance, just the slow, humiliating walk past staring faces. Across the city, Samantha's arrest was even more public. She sat in a glass-walled conference room at her firm mid-presentation to clients when officers entered. The room went silent. Badges flashed. She rose halfway from her chair, face draining of color. There has to be some confusion. The officers recited the charges: money laundering, conspiracy to commit fraud, aiding and abetting financial crimes. She reached for her phone to dial her attorney. They had already secured it. She was cuffed in front of colleagues she had known for a decade. By lunchtime, her termination email had circulated internally. The felony charges made her position untenable. The federal courthouse hearing came the following month. Wood-paneled walls. American flag behind the bench, the air heavy with procedure. Prosecutors laid out the case methodically. 3 independent physicians testified that Patricia's cognitive exams during the relevant years showed no dementia. Any incompetency rulings stemmed from misleading medical input provided by Joshua. Bank experts detailed the forged power of attorney documents and the flagged 2015 attempt. Megan Walsh outlined the money flow, including Samantha's shell company, and the $600,000 routed through it. Samantha's lawyer approached me privately before sentencing. "My client will testify fully against your father for a reduced sentence. She says she was misled, that she didn't grasp the extent." I considered it for 3 seconds. Tell her that in chess you don't negotiate with pawns. The prosecutors declined anyway. Her direct involvement signatures on transfers, shell company filings, left no room for leniency. During the sentencing session, the prosecutor read Grandma's sworn statement into the record. The courtroom hushed as her words echoed. "I trusted you, Joshua, but you stole my dignity." My father sat rigid, jaw clenched. Samantha stared at the table, shoulders hunched, the polished confidence gone. The judge spoke without emotion. "Joshua Carter, 7 years federal prison, no early parole eligibility, full restitution mandated. Samantha Carter, 3 years felony record that would shadow every future application, employment, loan, or lease. Both would see assets liquidated to repay the estate." Samantha's husband filed for divorce within days of the verdict. Their lives, carefully curated images of success, disintegrated in weeks. The sentencing hearing unfolded on a bitter February morning in the federal courthouse downtown. The room was hushed, wood-paneled walls absorbing every sound, the American flag behind the judge, the only steady thing in sight. Joshua and Samantha sat apart, both in plain jumpsuits, the confident masks they once wore completely gone. Prosecutors recapped the case one final time: years of forgery, calculated theft, elder financial abuse, money laundering routed through a shell company. The judge reviewed the file in silence, then delivered the sentences without pause. Joshua Carter, 7 years in federal prison, no eligibility for early parole. Full restitution mandated, every asset sold to repay the estate. Samantha Carter, 3 years of felony conviction that would shadow every job application, loan, lease, or credential for the rest of her life. The gavel fell. The courtroom emptied slowly. Samantha's husband filed for divorce within days. The papers arrived like a final punctuation mark. Joshua's social circle evaporated. Whatever lives they had constructed, carefully curated success, expensive suits, investment portfolios, disintegrated in weeks. The restitution process moved swiftly. Properties, auctioned accounts, seized proceeds, funneled back to the estate. 6 months later, the final inheritance transferred to me $2,500,000, combining the hidden account balance and recovered funds. The sum felt almost unreal at first, distant from the pain that had led to it. What grounded me was the sealed envelope Jacob Ellis handed me after the last hearing resolved. He met me in his quiet office, placed the letter on the desk, and stepped out to give me privacy. Grandma's handwriting on the front. I opened it slowly. "My dearest Emily," it began. If you're reading this, the truth has found its way out. I chose you because you have always been the one who sees clearly, who asks the hard questions, who refuses easy answers. You came to see me out of love, not expectation. You never looked away when things were uncomfortable. That's why I trusted you to carry this forward, even when it meant turning against your own blood. I am sorry for the weight I've placed on you. The pain of exposing family is deep, but I knew your heart could bear it. Use what remains for something real, build something that lasts, live fully, be happy. With all my love, Grandma. I read it twice, tears blurring the ink. The words didn't erase the years of betrayal, but they gave them meaning. I used a portion of the money to buy a narrow storefront in downtown Boston. I opened Carter Brew's, a small community coffee shop with warm lighting, soft chairs, and the constant scent of fresh grounds. In the back corner sits a chess table, 2 chairs, a board always ready. Free games for seniors every Tuesday afternoon. Above the table hangs a framed photo of Grandma on her porch, smiling directly at the camera. Beside it, in simple wood, her words, "The truth is patient. It can wait longer than any lie." Letters arrive occasionally from prison, Joshua's long and accusatory, Samantha's brief and demanding forgiveness or funds. I don't reply. When Samantha's divorce became final, I felt no pity, no lingering anger, just quiet closure. Some doors stay closed forever. In the end, I learned that some truths take years to surface, but when they do, they change everything. If you've carried a secret like this in your own life, you understand how heavy and how freeing it can be. In America, where family bonds are tested every day, the truth is patient. It can wait longer than any lie, teaching us to cherish honesty, justice, and the courage to build our own paths when trust is broken. Thank you for staying with me through this story. If it touched you, please subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you all for taking the time to watch the video. If you found this story meaningful, don't forget to leave a comment, sharing your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any upcoming videos.